Welcome into another Purple Insider Extra. Jonathan Harrison here, once again joined by Purple Insiders Matthew Coller. And Coller, we've been talking quite a bit about Kirk Cousins' options this offseason, and reports today suggest Daniel Jones is asking for an eye-popping $45 million a year from the New York Giants. If Daniel Jones, or even say Derek Carr, who are pretty similar to Kirk Cousins, get what they're asking for, get more than what Kirk has right now, what is the Vikings quarterback expected to ask for in return? Because he's on 1 year left, and what should Minnesota do in that if that happens?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's worth saying that if you were Daniel Jones, you would ask for the moon as well, knowing that you just took your team to the playoffs and that they might not have many other options at quarterback outside of you, especially if Derek Carr goes to somewhere like the Jets or the Panthers. And it's not like the Giants are in position to be able to draft his replacement either. So he knows that he's holding a lot of cards, especially with his popularity shooting up after getting the Giants back to the playoffs and his connection with Brian Daboll and so forth. But I also think the Giants are going to ask Daniel Jones to be a little bit reasonable, that he had a good season last year and really put up some great numbers against the Minnesota Vikings. But at the end of the day, he was not one of the better statistical quarterbacks in the NFL. So I would say that if he's asking for 45 and they want to give him 35, that they'll probably end up somewhere in the 40 million range, which does seem astronomical for Daniel Jones. And yes, if you're Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones gets $45 million, it's kind of like the LeBron and J.R. Smith meme, that's who you're giving, because Cousins has much better numbers over his career, and he has tremendous health as well to point to, that he could argue he's not going to fall off because he's consistently played 16 or 17 games every single season. And that does complicate things for the Minnesota Vikings, because I think in an ideal world, the Vikings would like to sign Cousins to a short-term deal that would allow them to, at some point, whether it's this year or next year, draft the quarterback of the future, rather than signing Cousins to, say, a Russell Wilson-like contract that's going to go for 4 or 5 more years and make him a Viking for the rest of his career. I think that they'd like to maintain some of that flexibility. And the other problem is they just don't have a complete roster right now, and they're way over the cap. They've got lots of free agents. Like, all these things are usually when a team decides to move on from a quarterback. But I think after winning 13 games, it would be a pretty tough sell to say, yeah, now's the time where we're going to move on from Kirk Cousins. So it wouldn't be a shock if they end up at some sort of impasse. And remember, in Washington, that's what happened with Kirk Cousins and that franchise. And he ultimately ended up hitting free agency. So I think that there's probably different things at play for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, and how this plays out will be very interesting and will kind of shape the direction of this team at the quarterback position for years to come.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.